So our texts for today, first one comes from Psalm 139. You, O God, made all the delicate inner parts of my body and knit me together in my mother's womb. Thank you for making me so wonderfully complex. Your workmanship is marvelous. How well I know it. You watched me as I was being formed in utter seclusion, as I was woven together in the dark of the womb. You saw me before I was born. Every day of my life was recorded in your book, every moment laid out before a single day passed. Search me, O God, and know my heart. Test me and know my anxious thoughts. Point out anything in me that offends you and lead me along the path of everlasting life. And then from 1 Corinthians 12. The human body has many parts, but the many parts make up one whole body. So it is with the body of Christ. Some of us are Jews, some Gentiles, some are slaves, and some are free. But we all have been baptized into one body by one Spirit, and we all share the same Spirit. Yes, the body has many different parts, not just one part. If the foot says, I am not a part of the body because I am not a hand, that does not make it any less a part of the body. If the whole body were an eye, how would you hear? And if your whole body were an ear, how would you smell anything? But our bodies are many parts, and God has put each part just where he wants it. How strange a body would be if there were only one part. Yes, there are many parts, but only one body. The eye can never say to the hand, I don't need you. The head can't say to the feet, I don't need you. All of us together are Christ's body, and each of us is a part of it. So I was born in Fort Wayne, Indiana, at my dad's first church. He graduated in June. I was born in September. And I was the first baby in the parsonage in like a bazillion years. And so people were very excited. When I was 18 months old, we moved to Michigan City, Indiana. And what I remember of that was just that life was fun. I got a new little sister during that time. And I just remember lots of playing and lots of peanut butter sandwiches. When I was 3.5, we moved to Ames, Iowa. And I can remember standing at the dining room window, watching the movers move our stuff in, eating Lucky Charms out of a cup. Why I remember that, I have no idea, but I do. I remember because it's Lucky Charms, exactly. I can remember we lived 2 blocks from the church, really. And so I can remember walking to preschool with my dad. And that's where I started elementary school. I had my first really group of friends, and we were kind of feral children in summers from in between different houses and that. In the middle of 2nd grade, when I was 8, we moved to Marysville, Ohio, town of about 5,000. And my dad was my principal. My mom was my gym and art teacher. Who decided they didn't want to ever get in trouble? Me. Somebody said to me once, well, you're just your dad's favorite, or you're just a favorite here at school because your dad is the principal. And I said, well, no, I just know I don't want to get in trouble at home too. So I will behave at school. I can remember when we moved in the middle of a year. And so I can remember coming to 2nd grade that first day, and they had started to write cursive already. And I hadn't. And so I was behind. But I remember my teacher and the whole class was so excited when I did really good on that first day. Here too, as we grew up, there was lots of roaming on bicycles all over town and climbing of trees. And we lived on a street that it was like a dead end street, and there was a cul-de-sac off it, or a round horseshoe street around it. And we were the first house on either of those two streets. So the time I was growing up, that whole division grew up as well. And so there were always dirt hills to play on, and basements to jump down into, even though we knew we weren't supposed to. There were all kinds of adventures that happened there. Summers were spent at the pool. I know now my mom used the pool as a babysitter during the summer for her 3 oldest children. And I graduated from 6th grade, the end of the Lutheran school that I was going to, and had just started 7th grade. And we moved. And we moved to Oklahoma City. We moved to another world, let me tell you. Like, it felt like it. We moved into Oklahoma City in one of the worst ice storms they had had in years. And we got to sleep on the floor of our living room for about a week because the moving truck and all of our stuff made it to Missouri and then got stopped because of the weather. And I remember walking into the new middle school for the first time. And the middle school that I went to in Oklahoma City was bigger than the middle school and high school put together in the town we had come from. And I remember very distinctly the first day I wore an outfit that would have been very cool where I came from. And when I was made to stand up in the middle of homeroom and introduce myself, I realized it was not a cool outfit here. It is the first place I remember feeling like I didn't belong and that I didn't fit. Moving from a town of 5,000 to a city of over 600,000 was a big change. That feeling of not belonging was so strong that I spent the rest of high school and college and long into my working years feeling like I never totally belonged. No matter where I was, no matter how many hours I spent trying to fit in, I always felt like I didn't quite make it. Now, if you'd asked any one of my friends during that time, or the people who knew me, they might tell you a very different story. But that feeling of not ever quite belonging was my reality. If I looked around, I could always find someone who was better than me, cooler than me, more talented than me, more popular than me, smarter than me, could sing better than I could, got better grades than I mean, on and on and on. I could always find somebody who was better than I was. And I desperately wanted to be on top. And I always felt like an imposter. As I got older, through high school and college, I started seeking out leadership positions because the leader always belongs, right? Like, groups wouldn't let you be a leader if you didn't belong in the group. Like, why would anybody let somebody lead them if that person didn't belong? And thankfully, I had some gifts in those areas, but even there, I could always find someone who was better than me. I spent so much time wanting to fit in that I never stopped to look at how many places I already did fit in. Even working in the church. I assumed everybody liked me because of my job. You're supposed to like the people at church, right? I mean, and I had friends, but I assumed that they were friends because of what I did. because they volunteered with me, because they were parents of kids that I was working with. And it wasn't until I was well into my working years that I found a friend who understood me and liked me for me, just as a friend, and not because of the position of the church that we both worked at. And it was like, wow, this is what it really means to have a really good friend. And it helped. But again, if you had known me during this time, you probably would never have seen all of this. Outwardly, I was successful, I was well liked, and inside I was that 12-year-old standing in homeroom, not fitting in. Who God had created me to be was talented and gifted, and never quite enough. Roll forward a few more years, and I found myself in a tough place in life. I was working with someone who was mentally and emotionally abusive to me and to many others. And I just kept feeling like if I just keep moving forward, it will get better, right? It'll be okay. But guess what? When you're running from something inside of you, it comes with you. In case you hadn't figured that out yet, right? If you're running from something inside you, you will never run away from it because it will always come with you. So roll forward a few more years. I graduated from seminary. Just keep moving forward. Just keep moving forward. And I got a job at this really awesome church in Colorado. And I got here and I was so excited, and I still felt out of step. The angst, the feeling of being an imposter, the grief, the fear, it all came with me. And so after some pushing and prodding from a very good friend, I dared to get emotionally healthy. I found a counselor I was determined to not like when I first met them. And I'll be honest, there were weeks when I would walk out of her office and I would swear I was not ever going back. I felt like that every person I had ever encouraged to do counseling, I felt like I should go back and apologize to them. Not for the encouragement to have counseling, but because I had absolutely no idea how hard the work really is. How I thank God for her these days and for this community, who has taught me that who I am is enough. I'm more than enough. And who the real me is loved. Period. That I can still lead and be who I truly am. Which means that sometimes I'm really present and I love being with you. And sometimes, as much as I love all of you, I need to not be with you. I need to not be with anybody so that I can reset and re-energize. I can own that there is a big part of me that is an introvert. I've learned how to live in an extroverted world, right? It means that when I'm here or when I'm out in the world in my role, I am very comfortable walking around and talking to people I don't know and that. But if you put me in a social situation where I'm showing up as Jane, I'm going to find the two people I know, and I don't need to talk to anybody else. Right? Like that's part of who I am. It means I'm a good leader and that it feels good when I lead. I can lead also how it feels good to me, not how I perceive somebody else thinks I should lead. It means that as long as I acknowledge both the introvert and the extrovert part of me, my life is way more imbalanced. It also means that while I love being upfront, I also love one-on-one conversations. It means that I will always, always love kids and go out of my way to love on them. And I will always be about 12 at heart and love to play. We had Women at the Well this past week, this past Monday, the first one for the summer, and we had from ages 8 to 80 something there. It was wonderful, it's fabulous, and I had people pair up with each other and just learn a couple of interesting facts about each other. And my partner got to be Hannah Dowdy, who is like 9, 10, somewhere in that range. And so we talked about a number of different things as we were talking, and it was so fun to hear her introduce me to the group, because she said, well, this is my friend Jane, and she has all the Harry Potter books, and she's read them all. And she even got to go to Disney World, and she got a wand at Ollivander's, and I just think that's so cool. I do too, Hannah. Most importantly, what it means to be who I am is that I have stopped comparing my insides to everybody else's outsides. And some of you have heard me say this before, but it is so important. Don't compare your insides to everybody else's outsides. Because everybody else's outside, we're all working hard to put on, to show that we are capable and that we can function in society and that we can, do the things that we like and we want, and like all that. We want to put a good face forward, don't we? We do. So what's on the outside is always going to look more together than what's on the inside. And when we compare our mess of insides to everybody else's kind of dressed up outside, we will always fall short. So I have stopped comparing my insides to everybody else's outsides most of the time.